Fourth, we believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
I'm running to serve Pennsylvania. He's running to use Pennsylvania. And let's also talk about the elephant in the room. I had a stroke. He's never let me forget that. And I might miss some words during this debate, mush two words together, but it knocked me down, but I'm going to keep coming back up.
I'm running for the U.S. Senate because Washington keeps getting it wrong with extreme positions. There should not be involvement from the federal government in how states decide their abortion decisions. I want women, doctors, local political leaders, letting the democracy that's always allowed our nation to thrive.
If you believe that the choice of your reproductive freedom belongs with Dr. Oz, then you have a choice. But if you believe that the choice for abortion belongs between you and your doctor, that's what I fight for.
Will you pledge tonight to release those records in the interest of transparency?
To me, for transparency is about showing up. I'm here today to have a debate.
I strongly support fracking, drilling, the piping of that natural gas.
I do support fracking. I'm the only person on this stage right now that was successful about pushing back against gun violence and being the community more safe. You know, all he's done is just put a plan up on his website in the last 24 hours.
Part of the problem is that we have taken away the ability of police to do their job, and that's on John Fetterman. I would support Donald Trump if he decided to run for president.
All right.
But this is bigger than one candidate.
My campaign is all about fighting for anyone in Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down, that had to get back up again.
Okay. So that is as good as it's going to get, okay, because that's a nice edit of what happened last night in the Pennsylvania Senate debate, right? Yes, John Fetterman actually had a problem speaking last night. There's no question that a guy 5 months from a stroke, a massive stroke, getting up on a stage is going to have some issues with speech and speechifying. And yeah, he used closed caption TV, and the auditory processing issue that he has means that he had to read the questions in order to process the questions, and the stroke meant that he had a difficult time speaking. What's Herschel Walker's excuse? You see, this debate was hard to watch if you're not a disability advocate. But this goes right back to the notion that I've always had about FDR and other presidents who did not have to be president on the TV. You know, FDR was in a wheelchair. You understand that, right? FDR had polio. FDR couldn't really walk. I don't think America elects him in 2022. Just saying. Or 2024. JFK had a disease called Addison's disease. It caused enormous amounts of muscle spasms in his back. His adrenal glands didn't function properly. And so he had, all kinds of issues. And America never knew about it. Never knew about it. John Fetterman last night gave a performance that if you have ever recovered from, God forbid, a stroke, that you should be applauding. That America ought to have rallied around this appearance, just the fact that he showed up. The amount of courage and bravery, the honorable nature of this man, the fighter that he is, it reminded me of Rocky IV. I mean, I really felt like, he was fighting Drago, and that he had been training in the Pennsylvania wilderness, dragging a log behind him to build up his strength, that log being his stroke. And there was, his opponent, who is a Turkish citizen, foreigner like Drago was, an all-around bad guy who's been booted out of almost every organization he was ever part of because he's, unorthodox and bizarre. Actually standing on the stage being that smooth-talking salesman, that snake oil salesman, that good liar that Dr. Oz is. Trying to take advantage of the trouble that Rocky found himself in. But Remember, Oz gave himself $20 million for his campaign and then had the nerve to attack Fetterman because Fetterman's family literally helped him after he graduated Harvard. Oh, yes. I don't know if you know who John Fetterman actually is. John Fetterman went to Harvard. John Fetterman comes from a family of wealthy insurance, an insurance company. And he could have done anything he wanted with his life, anything at all. So not only did he come from money, but he also was able to get into and graduate from Harvard. So did Oz. Okay, so in this particular portion of their lives, they're equally matched because Oz came from money, Turkish money, in Turkey. In fact, Oz's family is still fighting over, his father's, will to this day. His sisters and him still fighting over the largesse that his Turkish father left that family. Okay, so they're equally matched right up until they both graduate Harvard. Okay, one decides that he's going to be a snake oil salesman. One decides that he's going to sell weight loss crap or endorse weight loss crap and, tell women that green coffee beans can melt fat away.
You may think magic is make-believe, but this little bean has scientists saying they found the magic weight loss cure for every body type. It's green coffee beans. And when turned into a supplement, this miracle pill can burn fat fast for anyone who wants to lose weight.
Yeah, visit DrOz.com. Okay? Or then we downshift into, what is that stuff called? Garcinia Cambogia?
We're back talking about the newest, fastest fat buster, Garcinia Cambogia extract. Want to know how well it works?
Yeah.
Well, meet Missy. This is
Okay.
what she looked like before she began taking Garcinia Cambogia. While she was taking it, she lost 10 pounds in less than 4 months. Here's what she looks like now.
10 pounds in 4 months?
You look really good.
10 pounds in 4 months? I mean, come on. And then when he was asked about, the weight loss salesman that he is.
Did you or your company make a profit from promoting those products? You have 30 seconds.
I never sold weight loss products as described in those commercials. It's a television show. Like this is a television show, so people can run commercials on the shows, and that's a perfectly appropriate and very transparent process. I ruffled a lot of feathers on my show because I told people the truth, and I'm proud of that. I'll do the exact same thing as a U.S. senator.
Garcinia Cambogia, everybody, or green coffee bean is just going to bust fat. It's just going to melt away your omentum. He's very big on the omentum. I can't tell you how many times I saw Dr. Oz showing omentum, fatty tissue. Okay, I honestly. But anyway, so they're equally matched right up until they make these life-changing decisions after graduating Harvard. Do you know what John Fetterman chose to do with his life, which shows his character? It shows his tenacity. It shows his belief in humankind. It shows his ability to be helpful to others when you come from a background that is obviously privileged. Okay, so what did he do? Fetterman moved to a little tiny town called Braddock. Braddock is about, 6 miles east of Pittsburgh? And he decided that Braddock, which was a run-down, gutted-out steel town that had nothing but, dilapidated buildings and aging landmarks, and the brick facades on those buildings were marred with angry graffiti. And he moved there. He moved there, promising that he could help, okay? And he ran for mayor. And he was elected. He realized when he became mayor of Braddock that the mayor had no authority, no power, and that the real power was in the city council, and that the city council was corrupt, and the city council was disorganized, and the city council had no mission, and the city council was incompetent. In fact, the borough manager had to plead guilty to stealing about $170,000 from the town. So Fetterman decided to ask his parents to help him start a not-for-profit that would lure businesses to the area, a not-for-profit that would open stores, a not-for-profit that would try to revitalize that town. They gave him about $500,000, and he went to work.
all things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Let's also talk about the elephant in the room. I had a stroke. He's never let me forget that. And I might miss some words during this debate, mush two words together, but it knocked me down, but I'm going to keep coming back up. And this campaign is all about, to me, is about fighting for everyone in Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down, that needs to get back up, and fighting for all forgotten communities all across Pennsylvania that also got knocked down.
Okay, so this is the thing. The character and integrity of John Fetterman is real, okay? Yes, he has an issue with his speech after 5 months post-stroke. I mean, it's incredible that he's even running. It's incredible that he's able. It's incredible that his doctors say he's okay. Yes, he does have auditory processing issues. Yes, he does have some speech impediments. But I would rather have a guy with character and integrity with an auditory processing disorder than I would somebody who can't process the truth or reality. I mean, Dr. Oz has a reality processing disorder. He doesn't even, acknowledge that he spent 20 years or so on the TV trying to tell us women who are home folding laundry or raising kids or, trying to work from home watching his show that we could lose weight by sucking on a green coffee bean or taking some supplement that never, ever produced the results. I don't understand why he's still in denial about the truth of his career and the path that he chose for himself. That is the path Dr. Oz chose for himself. The path that Fetterman chose for himself, both of them graduated from Harvard, okay, was that he moved in to a distressed community known as Braddock that had about 1,700 people left in it, and decided that he was going to revitalize this community. I said that his parents gave him $500,000. That's wrong. They gave him $50,000. I added a zero because maybe I have a processing problem, okay? I glanced down and said it wrong. So I don't know what that means about me, but yeah, his family gave him $50,000. And that year, he used that $50,000 to buy an old red brick church in Braddock. And he decided that that would become the hub of the community. That would be the vibrant community hub where recreational and educational programs for kids and young adults could occur. And he decided to start a GED program. That is what he did with his time. He decided to teach kids how to finish their high school diplomas. And that was the beginning of Fetterman's approach to revitalizing Braddock. Okay? And over the next few years, Fetterman, as mayor, was able to draw attention to this little town and money to this little blighted area of Pennsylvania. And Rolling Stone decided to cover it. And Rolling Stone did a report, an article on John Fetterman. And that is how John Fetterman was able to attract Levi Strauss and Company to come to Braddock. They saw his gritty community as an ideal setting for a campaign that they were about to launch called Ready to Work. It was an ad campaign for Levi's. And when Fetterman was talking to Levi's actually started, saying, what would it cost to come into your town? He said, okay, well, here's what you have to do. You have to have local people star in these commercials, and you have to pay them, okay, union scale. And we also want a generous donation from Levi Strauss to our nonprofit so that we can continue the work. Then he got booked on the Colbert Report. And that's how people started to understand that he was this guy that, wore sweats, and he was very low key. Nobody could believe, he was 6'8". He is 6'8". Nobody could believe, that he had done any of this, that he had decided that that was what he was going to use his Harvard degree to promote, that this is where he was going to live. And he didn't just live there for a few years. He still lives there. It's been 20 some odd years that he's been in Braddock. He was reelected to be the mayor of Braddock 3 times. 3 times. They kept reelecting him. Levi Strauss gave him the largest donation that his not-for-profit ever received. They gave him $948,001. It was called Braddock Redo, okay? Redo. And that was the largest single donation that they ever got. and he used it to renovate a community center. He turned a vacant, weedy lot into a vegetable farm, okay? And then he started to try to bring down the crime rate in this little town, and he was successful at doing that too. He ran into some money problems. He asked his parents to loan him some more money. They did. He paid it back, which nobody ever wants to say. But this is who he is. This is his character. This is what, and the reason why his family was supporting him, because his father, whose name is Carl Fetterman, he said that he whatever support I provided was to make it possible for him to do this work. I really admired what he was doing with his life. And then he was able to attract donations from Heinz Endowment and Pittsburgh Foundation. And his family had only given him a very small portion of the seed money that, he started with, the 50 grand, which, by the way, he paid back. He didn't take a salary. I think he made $150 a year to be the mayor. Okay. And his not-for-profit ended up spending much more money than it received. And they were short $100,000 for like 2 years. Okay. And he made a huge difference in that town. He attracted a brewery to that town. He attracted a restaurateur to that town. He did so much good in this little town where he still freaking lives, where he still toils, where he still works, where he still tries to make something out of nothing. Give me a guy like that with some, speech problems. Give me a guy like that with a physical disability any day over a guy with no integrity, no character, who donates $20 million to himself and votes in another country and doesn't even live in the state that he's trying to run for Senate in. What Fetterman did is not a high glamour thing. What Fetterman did was not chase the money. Fetterman never saw big money come to him. He never saw glamour come to him. There was no money there. There was no glamour there. It was a commitment to make sure that people had some sort of an opportunity to get their education back on track and to fix their town, which is what everybody in Southern Ohio, I lived in Portsmouth, that. And, I lived there for a good 3 years or so. And I know the people of Portsmouth, and I know what they're up against, and I know what they suffer with, and I know how it works there, okay? I understand going to Pentecostal church on Wednesdays. I also understand coming home from the Pentecostal church and beating your wife because you're so wasted on beer and Valium or beer and Oxy now or beer and Roxy. I get it. I understand that community. But to have a guy that actually says, not only am I moving here, but I'm going to stay here until the job is done. I'm going to build a community center. I'm going to build and attract businesses to come here. I'm going to attract a brewery. I'm going to attract, restaurateurs. I'm going to clean the streets. I'm going to get rid of the angry graffiti. I'm going to replace it with, positive things. I'm going to have bicycle shops move here. I'm going to do it with, all volunteers in a not-for-profit situation. I'm sorry, but yes, he sucked last night on the debate stage. But he's a wonderful human being.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
You suffered, as you mentioned a moment ago, a stroke. 4 days before the May primary. Last week, you released this note from your doctor saying you can work full duty in public office, but you have not released your detailed medical records surrounding your stroke. Mr. Fetterman, will you pledge tonight to release those records in the interest of transparency? You have 60 seconds.
No. To me, for transparency is about showing up. I'm here today to have a debate. I have, speeches in front of 3,000 people in Montgomery County, all across Pennsylvania, big crowds. I believe if my doctor believes that I'm fit to serve, and that's what I believe is appropriate. And now with 2 weeks before the election, I have run a campaign and I've been very transparent about being very open about the fact we're in use captioning. And I believe that, again, my doctors, the real doctors that I believe in, they all believe that I'm ready to be served.
Okay. It's painful. There's no question about it. But what we're voting for here is many things. Actually, what we're voting for here is control of the United States Senate, nothing less. What we're voting for here is the ability to self-govern. What we're voting for here is honest government. This man has integrity and character, and he's tough and obviously a fighter. That he showed up last night. And, you know, I heard the commentary after the debate, okay? It was, I mean, we were watching it, Howard and I were watching it going, oh, this is not good. This is not good. Just like every one of you were watching it going, this is not good. This is not good. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I mean, let's just be honest about it. It was difficult to watch a man who was only 5 months out of a stroke try to debate one of the slickest, smoothest salesmen that ever came down the pike. It was hard to watch. There's no question about it. There's no candy coating it, sugar coating it, nothing. But if you do know who this man is, and I know Pennsylvania does, if you know his character, and you know that you need to respect the fact that he just even bothered out of respect for you to show up and do this debate, then the voting, the question of who to vote for is a no-brainer. Obviously, there's big trouble in paradise. Obviously. I don't know, listen, the candidates that we've been, I love debates. You know I do. I play them all the time. I watch them. I edit them. I bring them to you. And, listen, this one was tough. It was really hard. It was uncomfortable even. But I know who he is. I know what he's about. I understand that he is a person who will bring something to the table for Pennsylvania. He's not doing it for himself. He's not doing it for money. He's not doing it for glamour. He's not doing it to be called senator. He's doing it because he believes that this is the place where he can make a difference for most Pennsylvanians, more Pennsylvanians than he could not doing it. And that's why he showed up last night. And, listen, everybody was talking about the fracking answer. Okay, the fracking answer was probably the most uncomfortable portion of the debate because Fetterman one time supported a moratorium on fracking. But here's the dirty little secret. Dr. Oz did too. Dr. Oz did too. But because Fetterman's speech was so halting and choppy and repetitive and tough to listen to, nobody's talking about the fact that Oz was the smoother operator on the same freaking question of a fracking moratorium. So I'm going to play you the Fetterman portion, which is difficult. And then I'm going to play you the Oz, which is what Fetterman, if he had no integrity and character, if he had no principles, would have sounded like, okay?
I always believe that independence with our energy is critical, and we can't be held, ransom to somebody like Russia. I've always believed that energy independence is critical, and I've always believed that, and I do support fracking.
I do want to clarify something. You're saying tonight that you support fracking, that you've always supported fracking, but there is that 2018 interview that you said, quote, I don't support fracking at all. So how do you square the two?
I do support fracking, and I support fracking, and I do support fracking.
Okay, that was really, really halting. That was really, really hard to take. That was really clumsy and fumfering and all the things that you would say about a poor debate performance. It was a poor debate performance. Not for somebody 5 months outside of a stroke, but a poor debate performance. All right, just so you know, Dr. Oz also called for a moratorium on fracking back in the day. And when he was asked about his flip-flop on the issue, he was smooth as a snake oil salesman.
You wrote a column in 2014 calling for no fracking pending health study results. But in a video posted on social media in March, you said, quote, natural gas guarantees high-paying skilled jobs right here in Pennsylvania, so back off Biden. Give us freedom to frack. Mr. Oz, please explain that changing position. 60 seconds.
I've been very consistent. Fracking has been demonstrated. It's a very old technology to be safe. It is a lifeline for this Commonwealth to be able to build wealth, similar to what they've been able to achieve in other states. For that reason, I strongly support fracking, drilling, the piping of that natural gas. In fact, I'd build a facility even in Philadelphia so we can export it to our allies and help them, the ones that are struggling now in Eastern and Western Europe because of the Ukrainian war.
Okay, he wants you to frack so he could export our energy. Okay, that is a terrible answer. And in a normal scenario, everybody would be parsing that terrible answer. First, he was for a moratorium on fracking. Now he's for fracking. And the reason why he says he's for fracking is because he wants to export our natural gas. He wants to export shale. He wants to export what we are going to spend an enormous amount of water extracting from rocks. Okay. And he wants to take that and export it. Now, if John Fetterman wasn't, disabled by a stroke and some speech and auditory issues that he had, then we would be talking about the fact that Dr. Oz has a problem processing the truth of what he said there, the reality of what he's for, which is to export our energy. But we're not talking about Dr. Oz because everybody is stunned when somebody with a disability shows up to debate somebody without a disability. Character matters, everybody. It is the core of what we used to choose for our senators. It's the core of what we used to choose our representation in the House based on. We used to just, if you didn't have principles, if you didn't have integrity, if you were a liar, if you supported liars, if you were a truth denier, if you were an election denier, it was a non-starter. Oh, not anymore. Not anymore. I mean, you could see the effects of the stroke, but not as much as you could see whatever's wrong with Herschel Walker.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I want women, doctors, local political leaders, letting the democracy that's always allowed our nation to thrive to put the best ideas forward so states can decide for themselves. Contrast that with my opponent, John Fetterman.
But if you believe that the choice for abortion belongs between you and your doctor, that's what I fight for.
I mean, the question of the right to choose, the question that they're going to choose for you is going to be answered by guys like Dr. Oz, who are so disingenuous, so completely full of crap about, their answer there on the question of whether or not a woman can control her own body, whether or not we have autonomy, whether or not we're fully vested first-class citizens in this here country or not. I don't want that question to be answered by, a guy like Dr. Oz, who obviously knows what the medical risks to a woman can be when there's a problem with, a pregnancy, when there's a problem with, delivering, when there's a problem with, the fetus forming, when there's, all kinds of issues, whether, and I'm not even discussing, the rape and incest thing. I'm talking about health, okay? The actual, not mental health, but the physical health. He knows what an ectopic pregnancy looks like. He knows what it does. He knows it'll kill you. He knows that, some women are better off, if after a miscarriage of having a DNC so that they can live another day, to have another shot at it, to have another bite at the apple, to form a family, naturally. He understands what medical issues are. He also understands what the scarcity of medical care is for especially, rural women. He knows that hospitals are closing all over this country. He knows that clinics are closing all over this country. He knows that access to health care is a tough thing to come by in many, many, many places in this country. He's not stupid. He's just playing this thing out so that he could go to the Senate and then vote against vote against a woman having a right to choose. He's sitting there lying to your face, telling you, oh, I think local politicians. So what? I'm pregnant now and I go to my doctor and my doctor says it's not viable. Okay. I'm so sorry, but there's no head. Or I'm so sorry, but the organs that are supposed to be in the, stomach area are forming in the chest cavity. Okay, there's just no chance for survival outside. What we recommend is that you don't allow yourself to get septic and that you live another day and try again. Try again. I know it's depressing. I know it's sad, but we'll be here for you and, we'll help you try again. I mean, honestly, he knows what it is, and he won't say that. He just won't say it. He tells you that it should be you, your doctor, and then what? You call the governor, or you call the mayor, or you call your senator, or you call your House member, your district representative, you call your city councilman. I mean, what is he talking about where it needs to be a local politician deciding? What is he talking about? Okay, the question to him was whether or not he would vote for the complete ban, the freaking national ban on abortion that the Republicans have 20 votes for. And that was his answer. Oh, I think it should be decided by the locals? Really? No one thinks it should be decided by the locals. Everybody thinks that what we've done for the last 50 years with Roe v. Wade being a national proclamation, it's been available for every single woman in this country. It's been the fabric of our society says that until viability, which is 24 weeks, okay, if a woman doesn't feel like the pregnancy is going well, or if a woman feels like her health, or if the woman feels like, the doctor tells her, you can't carry to term because you'll die, or you can't carry to term because the baby will die, or you can't carry to term because the baby will live for 5 minutes outside your body and die in screaming agony. Roe has been available for every single woman in this country, and it should be the law of the land.
If you believe that the choice of your reproductive freedom belongs with Dr. Oz, then you have a choice. But if you believe that the choice for abortion belongs between you and your doctor, that's what I fight for. Roe v. Wade, for me, should be the law. He celebrated when Roe v. Wade went down, and my campaign would fight for Roe v. Wade, and if given the opportunity, to codify it into law.
And he will not. You know that. Dr. Oz would be a no. Dr. Oz, if Dr. Oz, God forbid, goes to the Senate, you know what Dr. Oz is going to be all about. He's going to be all about what the Republican agenda is. Now, given that they don't bother to tell you what their platform is, we're only left to guess, okay? And the only thing that we can, manage our guessing on are the facts that they tell us, the things they say. I don't know that they're facts, but the things that they say. And we know that people like Senator Ron Johnson, who has to go in Wisconsin and be replaced with Mandela Barnes, okay? We know that he is saying Medicare, Social Security, it should be part of the discretionary spending, and every year people should vote whether or not they want to continue Social Security and Medicare. And, by the way, we have no incentive to, raise the debt ceiling, even though we're the ones that spent all this money, because we don't want Biden to succeed. We want him to fail. So we want to take hostage the entirety of the American economy, and that we can do by not raising the debt ceiling. We can default the United States. We can crash the dollar. We can crash the economy. We can create massive chaos. We can stop air traffic controllers from getting paid. We can close the national parks by not doing that. And what incentive do we have as Republicans to make Biden a successful president? None, zero, zip, zilch, goose egg, squat, donut, nothing. And that is what the Republican Party is going to be for. They're going to be for crashing the economy. They're going to be for defunding Social Security and Medicare. They're going to be for, getting rid of Roe v. Wade. They're going to create as much chaos as they can so that Biden has nothing he can point to that, seems like it's functioning for the American people. And because only 11% of Americans read newspapers, they will blame Biden, and that is what they're banking on. That's what they're counting on. And so if you have a Republican House and Senate, that is what it's going to look like here. It's going to be completely and utterly chaotic. And A guy like Oz, who has no grounding, has no principles, has no care in the world for ordinary Americans, who doesn't believe in setting a federal minimum wage. He doesn't believe in a minimum. He thinks market forces are, just going to determine everything. He thinks that, women, will be fine without having access to, OBGYNs. He thinks, that everything will be fine, if we destroy Social Security and Medicare. He thinks that, the economy needs to be shut down. Whatever, because he's a Trumper. In the end, he needs to be loyal to Trump. And Trump doesn't want Biden to have any success on any front. And that is what Oz is telling you.
Donald Trump has supported you. He has endorsed you. Why won't you fully commit to supporting him in 2024?
Oh, I do. I would support Donald Trump if he decided to run for president.
All right.
But this is bigger than one candidate. This is a much bigger story about how we are going to build a bigger tent to let more Americans feel safe.
Are you concerned about the ongoing legal investigations involving the former president? 30 seconds, sir.
I haven't followed them very carefully. I've been campaigning pretty aggressively. They'll work themselves out. I have tremendous confidence in the American legal system, and I believe law and order will reign supreme.
Did he have a stroke? How could he not know the kind of legal problems that Donald Trump has? How could he try to be a United States senator and deny that he knows that his benefactor, his, largesse, his endorser, has stolen classified documents and declared that they're his? That he botched the COVID pandemic and told the CDC to squash any information about wearing masks and prevention and things like that? How could he not know that Donald Trump is, a fraud? How could he not know that Donald Trump is currently, today, right now, as I'm speaking to you, his company is on trial in a criminal court in New York for tax fraud? How could he not know that Donald Trump is under criminal investigation in Georgia for extortion and for trying to defraud the United States of America? How could he not know that Donald Trump is being looked at by the Department of Justice for inciting violence against our country on January 6th? How could he have missed all that? You see, this is what smooth snake oil salesmen sound like. This is what lying actually sounds like when you are a salesman, when you're a good liar, and when you need to lie. I just want you to know that, yes, Fetterman had a disability last night. No doubt about it. But Oz is just a reality denier. He's got a deficit in truth processing. He's not loyal to you or the Constitution or this country. He spent $20 million of his own dollars to buy that Senate seat. Make a note of it. Then go vote.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Don't let them ride your bike no more, Senator. Get that saddle off your bike and straighten your bike up. You letting that president ride your bike. You doing everything they tell you to do. Hey, let me tell you, I don't dance and sing for nobody. I never have. I'm from Wrightsville, Georgia. The Lord has washed me in the blood of Jesus. So right now, I know I represent Georgia. And when I come out, I'm ready to represent Georgia today. Because I love you guys. You guys are my family.
Oh, my God. Something about riding a bike and don't let a guy ride a bike and put a saddle on your bike before you let the guy ride a bike. How about a condom? How about that? Apparently, a second woman has come forward today with Gloria Allred at a press conference and said that Georgia Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker pressured her also to get an abortion after she became pregnant during their relationship. She said at a press conference this afternoon that she's been watching him deny that he asked the baby mama of his 10-year-old to have an abortion. Okay. And that the baby mama of his 10-year-old said that he had asked her again to have a second abortion, which she refused to have. Hence, he has a 10-year-old with her. This woman says she's been watching that and said, you know, it happened to me too. I got pregnant by him, and he, you know, he drove me to the clinic, to have the abortion in Dallas. She said this happened in 1993, and he drove her to a clinic in Dallas to have an abortion one day after she backed out of getting the procedure on her own. So he said, get an abortion. She said, okay. Then she chickened out and said, no, I don't want to have an abortion. He came, got her, and drove her to the clinic. But, you know, he's washed in the blood of something. Some blood. I mean, again, there is no explanation for what's wrong with him. Now, Newt Gingrich tried to say that Herschel Walker sounds this way and is this dumb because he had many concussions. That's Newt Gingrich's, offering to you about why you should excuse Herschel Walker's madness, about why you should, just overlook the fact that he is a liar, that he is a hypocrite, that he is a person of absolutely no integrity. You should just overlook that, Newt says, because he's had concussions. And that when he stands up there and he talks in a word salad about bikes and not riding one and saddling and whatever, and that he doesn't sing for nobody and tell stories about pregnant cows and over on the hill there's a bull or whatever the hell he does, okay, that we should overlook it and just go ahead and vote for him. I got news for you. The early voting in Georgia is going really, really, really gangbusters. In fact, early voting in this country is going really, really gangbusters. Over almost 12 million Americans have already voted. This is beating records for, obviously, 2018's midterms, where we took the House and the Senate. But, we did have special elections in Georgia, 2 of them, and that's how we got Warnock, and that's how we got Ossoff. And that's how we got, a 50-50 Senate. Otherwise, But we're supposed to actually just pretend that we don't know any of these things and that we don't know that Herschel Walker is a serious serial offender when it comes to knocking women up and then requesting or driving them to and insisting that they abort the child because he doesn't want it. Because Herschel is now running on his version of Jesus, which says that life doesn't begin when God breathes into your nostrils, which is, kind of what I read. Yeah, I read that life begins. Everyone go, well, when do you think life begins? I'll tell you right now when I think life begins. I think it begins when the breath of the Lord is in your nostrils, right? And the baby all of a sudden goes, what the? And starts crying because it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. The baby has seen God. I mean, that's what the Bible says. It's just what the Bible says. But there is abortion in the Bible. You can kick a woman in the stomach, if that woman cheated on you with, a man, not her husband. You could do that. Then there's, the bitter tea or the bitter water ordeal where, the priest actually gives the bitter water to the woman, tells her, drink it, abort yourself. But anyway, Herschel says he doesn't believe in abortion, even in cases of rape, even in cases of incest, even in his case, okay, of, being outside the home while you have 4 kids with 4 different women and you choose not to be present in any of those children's lives. He says that's fine. That's fine. But if you somehow impregnate 2 more women 3 times, it's okay for him to drive them to the clinic, but it's not okay for you because he's Herschel and you're not. And this is his position. This is who he is. This is what they say. Now, somebody's going to have to explain to me why a man who lies like that is a better bet simply because he's a Republican than a Democrat whose character is bankable, knowable, learnable, seeable, understandable. A man whose entire life was based on, volunteerism and giving back to communities, not even his own community. I mean, Fetterman is from a community that's 200 miles away from Braddock. Okay, he's from a community called York, which is real leafy, real suburban, real privileged. And instead of taking his Harvard degree and making money and going about his business, no, he decided that his life was going to be in service to others in less fortunate places in Pennsylvania. And he actually did do it for 20 years. Did do it. But somehow I'm supposed to overlook the fact that Herschel Walker had a privileged life, screwed it up, lies about it, held guns to women's heads, thought about, blowing another guy's brains out, describes it to you, says that, he could see the gray matter. He could see the guy's brains in his mind being blown out of his head. Claims that the thing that stopped him from doing it was a "Honk If You Love Jesus" bumper sticker. And this is what stopped him from being a murderer. How else do you put it? I'm not buying that. I'm not believing that. I'm not having any of it. I don't think that that's something and somebody that ought to be sent to the United States Senate as a Democrat, as a Republican, as an independent. I don't see how that's even passing muster in the party of the populist party. I don't know what to call them anymore. I mean, they're the party of hate. They're the party of lies. They're the party of taking away rights. They're the party of creating chaos and confusion and lying and saying things were stolen when they weren't stolen and saying crime is bad as a proxy for race. You understand that that's what this is, right? Because I watched a debate last night. I don't know if you saw this one. But there was another debate, this one not of national importance, and therefore, it does take a backseat to the national Senate race that's going to affect the makeup of the United States Senate. But there was the governor's debate in New York last night, between Kathy Hochul and Lee Zeldin, who's running as a deranged election denier. And, obviously, this whole thing where Zeldin kept accusing Kathy Hochul of being blind to crime or whatever, it was such a dog whistle because I looked it up. And crime in the state of New York, since Hochul's been the governor, since Cuomo stepped down and she became the governor, has declined almost by 20%. It's declined by 14%. So they keep on telling you crime is going up, and Republicans are better on crime. You understand what they're saying, right? You understand the little dog whistle, the Willie Horton ad that they're running.
Go for launch. Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, this is the current governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, telling Lee Zeldin, you're just trying to scare people. And I looked it up. Crime in New York is down 14%.
You can either work on keeping people scared or you can focus on keeping them safe. I have worked hard to have real policies that are making a difference. And as you mentioned, that data is still being collected. But I did focus on bail reform in our budget. That's why the budget was 9 days late, because I insisted on common sense changes. But there is no crime fighting plan if it doesn't include guns, illegal guns. And you refuse to talk about how we can do so much more. You didn't even show up for votes in Washington when a bipartisan group of enlightened legislators voted for an assault weapon ban. I mean, we lost another child and a teacher yesterday in St. Louis because people will not support what I was able to get done here in New York, and that is a ban on assault weapons for teenagers. You can't even do that. It's quite extraordinary, but it's about getting the guns off the streets. That's the first start. We have more to do, but I'm the one to do it.
I mean, obviously, guns is the elephant in the room when you talk about gun crime. Just saying. And, the idea that the Supreme Court is deciding whether or not New York can actually, control its guns is just, it's the cherry on the cake of the crime wave, on the crime wave's day. And that people in this country who have an R after their name pretend that it's not an issue. pretend that 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds or 16-year-olds with semi-automatic weapons isn't a problem in this country is beyond embarrassing. And he is trying to scare people into voting for him simply because he knows that if anybody bothered to look it up, crime has plummeted in this country since the 1990s. And even through the pandemic and the advent of, these semi-automatic weapons being available to every crackpot that wants them, crime in this country is still down from its 1990s high. And we can get it down even further if we do something for, the sake of, schools. School safety, if we do something on semi-automatic weapons, if we raise, even in Florida, the state of Florida. Rick Scott was the governor. He's a senator now, okay? This is the Medicare fraudster of the century. But even he, after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, realized that it was probably not a good policy to let 18-year-olds buy semi-automatic weapons. And so in Florida, we were able to raise the age for ownership of these weapons to 21. And that was a Republican governor who made it to the Senate. He's an awful senator, but he made it to the Senate on that record. So what is this talk of crime with no solutions? What is this all about? It's a proxy. It's a proxy for saying Mexicans are rapists and murderers. That they bring, guns and they bring, fentanyl and all those other things, If you really wanted to stop the drug cartels in Mexico, and I've said this, I will say this till the day we do it, and then you'll see that it was the right answer when we do it. But if you want to stop the drug cartels, then you have to stop the guns. And in Mexico, guns are basically illegal. You can't get them there. You can buy guns at one gun store in Mexico City that's located on a military base. So where are the drug cartels getting their guns? From us. They're being smuggled in to Mexico from the United States because we let everybody have a gun. You get a gun, and you get a gun, and you get a gun, and here's a gun for you. Look under your chair. There's a gun. And that's how Mexican drug cartel. And so every time they walk up to that fentanyl line and they start saying, well, it's not just about immigration, it's about fentanyl. You left out the fentanyl. You left out the guns. You left out the issue of gun smuggling. You left out the issue of easy to come by guns going over the border that way. They're only focused on stuff that's coming in. They don't want to look at what's going out. They don't want to look at who's arming these freaking drug cartels. You know why? Because they'll see their face in the mirror. That's too painful. And it screws up their whole narrative about guns and needing them because of crime. They perpetuate this endless loop of violence. It's who they are. It's what they do. Look, let me play you this. Okay, this is just amazing. This is Blake Masters. Blake Masters. He he wants to be a senator in Arizona. Okay, and he's back crap.
This is designed to kill people.
We're like, what? Whoa, he said that?
Psychopaths are running the country right now.
I had consultants that told me, Blake, we never want you to say anything unplanned. And I literally just laughed at him. I was like, that's not going to work.
AK-47, when you absolutely, positively have to kill every last motherfucker in the room, except no substitute.
I'm Kyle Kirkhoff. I don't really have a formal title, but I volunteer for the campaign. Blake and I have been best friends for like 15 years.
Oh, my God.
I help a lot with the videos, the ads.
That's what's going into Mexico. Okay, that is exactly the problem with the drug cartels. These people are bat crap, okay? They are perpetuating violence. They are ratcheting up the opportunities for violence, not just in this country, but cross-border. And then they have the nerve to hold themselves out as problem solvers. Really? That is just so strange and weird. Okay, back to New York. So obviously crime is coming down in New York. And so this was just a scare tactic. Then she started talking about, jobs and all the jobs bills that Biden was able to craft and pass and sign into law. And every single one of those jobs bills, Lee Zeldin, her, wannabe governor, candidate for the Republican Party in New York, he voted against every single one of those bills.
It's so disingenuous to say you want to create jobs when you as a member of Congress vote against everything that would create jobs. You voted against the infrastructure bill.
Oh,
you
my
voted
God.
against that was bipartisan. You voted against the Inflation Reduction Act that would have brought more money to help protect our environment. You think that, I know you're an election denier, but also a climate change denier. I mean, it's absurd that you live on Long Island and we're talking about the 10th anniversary of Superstorm Sandy. That federal money can be used in our state to build up resiliency so we don't lose people's lives again. We have to have smart economic policies. I know how to create jobs. Ask Micron why they came to New York with 50,000 jobs, because we know how to do that.
Seriously. And they never have a plan. They never do. They just stand there and say, I'm a no. I'm a no. I'm not for that. I'm not for infrastructure. What? No, I don't want to fix roads and bridges. It's New York. Everything's connected by bridges, okay? Manhattan is a freaking island. You're from Long Island. I mean, they're just no's. No's on infrastructure, no's on the Inflation Reduction Act, no's on lowering prescription drug costs, no's on bringing jobs back to New York, no's on this, no's on that. And then they point and they say, see, nothing got done.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
I want to hear it from MAGA Republicans, officials who had hundreds of thousands of dollars of debts, even millions of dollars in pandemic relief loans forgiven, who now are attacking me for helping working class and middle class Americans. My team at the White House posted a video of this, folks, online. You should check it out. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she and her husband got $180,000 in business loans forgiven.
Oh, my God.
The PPP program. She said it's completely unfair for us to forgive student loans for working and middle-class Americans. Representative Vern Buchanan of Florida said our plan was reckless. Guess how much he got in that program? Forgiven. $2,300,000.
Oh, my God.
It's not a joke. Can't make this stuff up. Republican governors wrote me a letter saying this relief only helps the elite few. Y'all know you're the elite few? I knew you were really special, but know you're the elite few. I'm serious. Ted Cruz, the great senator from Texas, he said it's for slackers, quote, slackers who don't deserve relief. Who in the hell do they think they are?
Really, who do they think they are? The nerve of them. They vote against every jobs bill. They vote against every relief bill. And then once something is passed, they take credit for it. If somebody builds, fixes a road in their district, even after they voted against a bipartisan infrastructure package, they take credit for it. If they got $180,000 worth of PPP money and then got their PPP loan forgiven, like Marjorie Taylor Greene or this guy from Florida, this House member from Florida got $2.3 million, they just pretend it didn't happen. Or they just pretend that, having their loan forgiven is normal and good. And having a student loan of, somebody getting $10,000 knocked off their student loan debt for doing absolutely nothing but investing in themselves, trying to get an education to better themselves so they can contribute even more to America. They're slackers. It's an entitlement. They don't deserve it. They're undeserving. They didn't do it right. I swear to God, it's just, it's really rich. They do it all the time. And Biden's having none of it. He's having absolutely none of it. So here we had all this legislation, okay? legislation that lowered the price of prescription drugs, legislation that floated businesses like mine during the pandemic, businesses that, were forward-facing businesses that couldn't, make payroll, and then having those loans forgiven. That's fine. But not for you. Not for you. We shouldn't lower the price of prescription drugs. We shouldn't save Medicare the money that it spends on prescription drugs by negotiating. It's not even, they're like, well, negotiating is bad. It's so sick, okay? Economically, Democrats are on your side. Economically, Republicans talk. They talk a lot.
We took on the pharmaceutical companies. We took on the big oil companies. We are raising taxes on corporations in order to help lower costs. That's why you can trust us to fight for you to deal with higher costs. You can't trust the people who want to give tax cuts to big oil to deal with high gas prices. You can't trust the people who want to give tax cuts to Wall Street banks to fight for you in a world of greedy corporations. So it's proof of what you're going to do going forward, not asking for a pat on the back for what you did. I think that is the pivot here. I think the president's laid that out in a couple of speeches, and I hope a lot of Democrats will follow that.
I think it's been laid out, Dan Pfeiffer. I think everybody who wants to know does know who was for the infrastructure package. I think anybody who wants to know does know who's for saving Medicare and Social Security. I think anybody who does want to know knows that Democrats want to tax and passed a 15% minimum tax on billionaire corporations. I think people understand that if you wanted to, do something about inflation, then the answer is a windfall profits tax on those companies that are gouging us in the moment that they are the most profitable. The absolute most profitable quarters for oil and gas, the most profitable quarters for big ag, the most profitable quarters for pharma, and they're gouging us. I think people know that. And I think they also understand that there is a group of people called the Democrats that have had it with this behavior, that understand that 50% of the inflation is caused by corporate gouging and lack of competition in the marketplace. Here's a basic factoid. If there was a normal amount of competition in the marketplace, a normal amount, then people would be selling things cheaper because they don't want you to go to the store that's gouging you. But because there's no real competition, everybody's gouging you. Everybody's doing it because there's nobody that's undercutting them. There's nobody that's discounting it. There's nobody that's saying, hey, come over here. We're not going to gouge you. This gas station, and that's because everybody has their prices set at the national level or at the international level or at the global level. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So who's saying we'll bring businesses back to America? Who's saying screw the Chinese? We're not going to we're not going to get our semiconductors from them anymore. The supply chain broke. Live and learn. So now we're going to build them here. Democrats are. Democrats are building things. Democrats are investing in America. Democrats are putting America first, Americans first. They just talk. They just talk. They slap labels on things. They say that's what they're for. And then when the bill comes up that shows that they're really for that they really want to build, open an Intel plant in Ohio, or they really want to build microchip plants across the country, or they really want to build EVs, they really want to invest in infrastructure that will have, battery swaps where you could just pull up, swap out your battery from this car and take a fresh battery and get on your way. No, that is not the Republicans. They deny that there's a need for any of these businesses. They deny that there's a need for anything renewable. They deny that there's a need for anything local. They deny that there's a need for competition. They deny. Okay. And it's the same thing with crime, the same thing. You elect a Democrat, crime comes down 14%, and then you say, there's crime. There's crime. Crime, 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 crime. Well, what's your plan for crime? We don't have a plan for crime. What do you mean you don't have a plan for crime? No, we don't. We just have to point at it and make people afraid of it and then tell them who to blame for it. And of course, it's going to have a tinge of racism to it.
The top 5 states with the highest homicide mortality rates are all red states.
Oh.
Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Missouri, Arkansas. How are Democrats playing defense on this? How is this not a stat that is mentioned every single time Republicans want to talk about crime?
How? How is it that that is not mentioned? How is it that violent crime is through the roof in states that are governed by Republicans? And states like New York that are governed by Democrats have a reduction in crime and are trying to do something about gun crime, are trying to do something about background checks, are trying to do something about mental illness, trying to find out who is actually suffering. And the Republicans vote no.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I mean, well, this has been the Republicans. This is their break glass issue in every election. It goes back to the Willie Horton ad in 1988. They did it against Barack Obama. Trump tried it in 2020. Of course, they're doing here. And as you said in your opening, it's crime is the topic, but it's a proxy for race. There's a lot of racially coded language here. A lot of it's pretty explicitly racist. And so the way Democrats should handle this, and some campaigns like the Fetterman campaign have done this very well, is to take it on, to state what you are for. That you have fought crime in your previous job. You will fund responsible, accountable policing. And then what you do is you pivot, because these are the trap in all of these things is something President Obama used to say is you don't play their game, you call out their game. So now talk about why they are trying to use crime to scare you, to distract from their extremist agenda that wants to infringe on your personal freedoms, cut your Medicare, cut taxes for corporations. And so you have to take it on, state what you were for. Do not let them incorrectly and inaccurately frame Democrats as being soft on crime. Call them out. And in some states, as you point out, you can do that very aggressively against the Republicans who have overseen steep increases in crime over the last couple of years.
Right. And the head of the Republican Party, the leader of the Republican Party, is the world's largest criminal. Everybody loves to forget that Donald Trump is such a freaking provable, demonstrable criminal. He has defrauded students at his school. He is on trial today in New York for tax fraud. His company defrauding the government, defrauding the state of New York out of payroll taxes by giving pay to Weisselberg through paying his rent, through paying for his Mercedes-Benz leases, plural, so that he could avoid payroll taxes. That's what this case in New York is about. Then you've got the Espionage Act hanging over his head in the removal of classified documents, and then his claim that they're mine. They're not his. They belong to the National Archives as a caretaker for the government of the United States, which is what all presidential records are. They are the property of the United States of America. They are not the personal property of the person that was in the office. The office of the presidency has its own lawyer. Okay, that is the White House counsel. The White House counsel is not Trump's lawyer. Don McGahn was not Trump's lawyer, although Don McGahn behaved as if he was, Leonard Leo's personal lawyer. He behaved as if he was the Supreme Court's personal attorney, and he was going to select from a list the, Opus Dei creatures for nomination and confirmation to the United States Supreme Court. That's what McGahn used his time as the White House counsel to do. But he was supposed to be there defending the White House, the office of the presidency, which, of course, he did not do. Donald Trump is a criminal. And I want to know, why is it that every single time Republicans bring up crime, not only is their record on crime in the red states horrendous, not only is crime through the roof in rural America because it's awash in guns and drugs, and alcoholism and other, deaths of despair. Not only is that happening, but that the leader of the Republican Party is the criminal in chief. He is the person who sets the bar for what is and what isn't criminal behavior. The guy, his followers are criminals. Every single person that did damage to the Capitol, every single person that smeared feces on the walls of the United States Capitol, every single person who broke a window or hunted down Nancy Pelosi or, carried a Confederate flag into the Senate or, took a dump on the or rifled through the desks of House members or Senate members or tried to obstruct Congress from doing its job. They're all criminals, every single one of them. Even people that weren't there that day, like the Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes. Little Stewie there has been charged with seditious conspiracy. You know what that means? That he was involved in a conspiracy to overthrow his own government. You understand what I'm saying to you? The Proud Boys too. And you know where the Proud Boys are? You know what you know what they're doing? They're the GOP in Miami. They literally are the party in Miami. Enrique Tarrio and his little crowd down there, they're in charge of the Republican Party in Miami. And when Marco Rubio was asked about what does he think about the Proud Boys being in charge of the party in Miami, he said, "Well, I'll let you know once you start acknowledging that the Democrats are communists." What? What is wrong with you?
We asked Senator Rubio if he's okay with Proud Boys serving on the Miami-Dade GOP committee.
Well, when you ask me about the communists and socialists that are part of the local Democratic Party, then we can talk about who's a member of the Republican Party.
Answering one question with a false analogy, really not a good look for a United States Senator up for re-election.
Okay, that's our local Channel 10 newsman, okay, who went and asked Marco Rubio, what do you think about the GOP being run in Miami by people who are accused of seditious conspiracy? And his answer is to say that Democrats are communist? I mean, what the F? What is wrong with you? It's a false analogy. It's not true. It's not an analogy because it's not analogous, okay? There are no communists in the Democratic Party. There's one socialist, and he's a Democratic socialist. That's Bernie Sanders. That's not the kind of socialism that we're talking about when you talk about Hugo Chavez or communist, countries. These people are out of control with their love for the crime and the criminal and the protection of the criminal and the crime is nothing. It's a kerfuffle. It's what Blake Masters says about, January 6th. Oh, it was a kerfuffle. It was a kerfuffle. People died that day. Okay, one of your own died that day. How do you even separate the death of Ashley Babbitt, which actually happened, from the word kerfuffle? I mean, it makes no sense because it's nonsense. It makes no sense because they are saying it. They are saying it to deflect. They are saying it to try and legitimize themselves as being a real political party. And they're not a real political party. They're a bunch of criminals. They're a bunch of miscreants. They're a bunch of fascists. They're a bunch of autocrats. They don't believe in a free market economy. They believe in oligarchy. They believe in mafia rule. They believe that the leader of their party, Donald Trump, is a criminal, but that he's calling on the other criminals in this country to protect him because he can't go to the police. See, Donald Trump can't go to the FBI for protection. So Donald Trump goes to the Oath Keepers for protection. Donald Trump goes to the Proud Boys for protection. He goes to the 3 Percenters for protection. He goes to white supremacists in Charlottesville for protection. And by the way, Fox News the other night, they were sitting on their news saying, oh, and one of Marco Rubio's canvassers was brutally beaten in Hialeah, Florida. And you won't hear the liberal media talking about it. You want to hear me talk about it? Okay, let's talk about it. The guy that was beaten up who was canvassing for Marco Rubio, believe it or not, is a white supremacist. He's Cuban, but he's a white supremacist. His name is Monzon, and he was literally in Charlottesville.
Florida's my home. My family's been here, ever since the late 1800s.
You said that you're Cuban American.
That's correct.
Do you think that, but you weren't here during the Civil War, though? Your family.
He's standing here with the Confederate flag.
Is that this is the South.
This is the South.
Everybody that moves here needs to conform to the South. That's it. This is federal occupied Dixie.
And what do you think that,
Federal
so when you say
occupied
conform to the
Dixie.
South, what does that mean to you?
It means basically to integrate to your surroundings. You know, people should appreciate the land they live in. People should learn the culture and learn the language, and also the symbols, and learn to respect those symbols that were there before them, and the people that were there before them that formed that culture and that country.
Do you think that the South would have been welcoming of your family at that time?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I do have one great uncle that actually lived in the South during that time. He's buried in New York, however, but he lived in South Carolina, in Charleston. Historical records point that out, anyways.
I saw you almost got into a fight with that guy.
I wasn't going to attack him because I would have known the implications for myself.
Okay.
However, I did dare him to attack me, and if he wants to, you know, that's his problem.
That's the guy. That's the guy that they say was brutally attacked. Guy is a known white supremacist, and he was canvassing in a very Republican neighborhood in Hialeah. And the guy who attacked him, he's in jail, just so you know. But this guy is a notorious white supremacist, and he was canvassing for Marco Rubio. And that's the real story about Marco Rubio's canvasser. He was attacked because everyone knows he's a white supremacist.
Mary had a little lamb. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
It's Friday. It's a frightening Friday, you bastards.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband has been attacked in his home, in their home. Dana Bash is back with us now to tell us what we know about this, Dana.
Horrifying. What we know is a statement from Speaker Pelosi's office explains some of the details. Here's what it says. Early this morning, an assailant broke into the Pelosi residence in San Francisco and violently assaulted Mr. Pelosi.
Oh my God.
The assailant is in custody, and the motivation for the attack is under investigation. Mr. Pelosi was taken to the hospital where he is receiving excellent medical care and is expected to make a full recovery, which is great news. The speaker was not in San Francisco at the time, and they are saying that they are grateful to the medical professionals and asking for privacy at this time. I mean, absolutely horrifying, terrifying. We have been talking about experiencing sort of violence across the board, and whether or not, this is very clear, the motivation for the attack is under investigation. Whether or not it is politically motivated, we do not know yet. Regardless, if someone like Paul Pelosi, who clearly lives in a place where I would imagine they have a pretty darn good security system, can be the victim of such a crime, it's pretty eye-opening and, again, horrific.
We are down the rabbit hole. We are literally off the tracks, over the cliff. This is so unbelievably, obviously dangerous. The amount of violence that is included with any mention of MAGA, maggots, and Trump is just astronomical through the roof. It is off the charts. This is crazy. Now, before anybody yells at me and says, you didn't say anything about Kavanaugh, let's say something about Kavanaugh. A mentally ill man he said he was going to kill, Kavanaugh, and actually turned himself in. He picked up the phone. He called himself in. He knew he was having a break with reality. He knew he was off the rails. He knew he was in trouble, and he self-reported. That's the Kavanaugh story. Steve Scalise, okay? That was a guy who went to a Republican baseball game and shot up the entire freaking place, okay? And that was horrendous. That was ugly. That was violent. That was wrong. That was bad. Okay, you good? Because Nancy Pelosi has received death threats for ever since the election, ever since, Donald Trump lost. There have been 9,600 threats to members of Congress since Donald Trump lost the election. okay, since Donald Trump lost the election. Gretchen Whitmer was threatened to be kidnapped, put on trial, and executed by people who Trump literally lit a fire under and got them all worked up over COVID, saying COVID was unreal, COVID was a hoax, COVID was a plot against him. It had to do with him, you know. And people literally started to, agitate and marinate and ruminate in the possibility that Gretchen Whitmer was trying to enslave them or whatever the hell they were reading and hearing on Newsmax and OAN and Fox News and Right Side Broadcasting and Steve Bannon and the whole freaking social media cabal, okay? And Katie Hobbs, too. Katie Hobbs has had death threats at her home. Katie Hobbs' office was broken into yesterday. Voters are terrified. You have people in Arizona that are sitting in Maricopa County wearing tactical gear, armed, threatening, just intimidating voters just by looking at them, just by being there in lawn chairs, with their faces covered, masked faces with firearms. This is insanity. This is total bullcrap. And we know more now than we did this morning. And, kudos to the media, kudos to the legitimate media for not jumping to conclusions about who this person was. Now we know a whole lot more about what happened at 2:30 in the morning at the Pelosi residence in San Francisco. This was the first clue we got. Okay, this is Jamie Gangel reporting early.
John, it appears we may actually have the motive, or at least part of the motive. I've just been told by a source who was briefed on the attack that the assailant who attacked Paul Pelosi was actually in search for the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. That before the assault occurred, in other words, before he attacked Pelosi, the intruder confronted the Speaker's husband in their home and was shouting, quote, "Where is Nancy? Where is Nancy?" So, John, again, this is from a source who was briefed on the attack, who says before he physically assaulted the Speaker's husband, he was clearly looking for Pelosi herself, quote, "Where is Nancy? Where is Nancy?"
Okay, so we learned that a couple hours ago, and we got updated by a presser that was held by the San Francisco Police Department, who described what they encountered. Now, I'm sure the alarm, the intruder alarm, I'm sure, their Ring doorbell or whatever it is, the panic button, however they secure their house, actually notified police that there was an intruder. This is a person who came in through the back door. I've been made to understand, I don't know if it's, reliable, that there's sliding glass doors in the back of their house, and that's how the intruder came in. And this man came in and was asking, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" Paul Pelosi was 2:30 in the morning. I guess he thought he'd be asleep and would catch him by surprise. I have no idea. But a struggle ensued with a hammer. What I don't know is if the intruder brought a hammer, which is very personal. That's a very personal thing, to want to, bang on somebody's head, bash somebody's head open with a hammer, or if Paul Pelosi went to get a hammer to defend himself. But when the police arrived, they were struggling over the hammer.
At approximately 2:27 this morning, San Francisco police officers were dispatched to the residence of Speaker Nancy Pelosi regarding an A-priority well-being check. When the officers arrived on scene, they encountered an adult male and Mr. Pelosi's husband, Paul. Our officers observed Mr. Pelosi and the suspect both holding a hammer. The suspect pulled the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi and violently assaulted him with it.
Oh, God.
Our officers immediately tackled the suspect, disarmed him, took him into custody, requested emergency backup, and rendered medical aid. The suspect has been identified as 42-year-old David DePepe. Mr. Pelosi and Mr. DePepe were transported to a local hospital for treatment. This is an active investigation currently being led by the San Francisco Police Department Special Investigations Division. We are working closely with our partners from the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the U.S. Capitol Police, and our district attorney here in San Francisco County, D.A. Brooke Jenkins, and her team. The motive for this attack is still being determined. Mr. DePepe will be booked at the San Francisco County Jail on the following charges: attempted homicide, assault with a deadly weapon, elder abuse, burglary, and several other additional felonies.
Oh, my God. Dear God. All right. Few hours went by. As soon as we got the name, everybody started Googling this guy, David DePape. David DePape has lots of social media, and it's all deranged, every last bit of it. He is a follower. He reposts everything Mike Lindell posts about election denial and scams and machines flipping votes. He's a COVID, he believes COVID was a hoax. He's extremely anti-Semitic. He actually has a social media page called DA, Duh, Jews. Yeah. It says 9/11 was an inside job. He denies that the election was free and fair. He is supportive of January 6th, criminals. I mean, responsive to every single conspiracy theory laid in front of him.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
We're looking at just some of the disturbing social media posts that, the investigators are also going through, and you get a very, obviously, a picture of a disturbed person, somebody who has been posting things on Facebook, including links to the MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell's false claims about election fraud in the 2020 election. There's some transphobic images. We've also seen stuff on there about the COVID vaccines and about the Derek Chauvin trial. This is the police officer in Minnesota who was convicted of killing George Floyd.
Oh my God.
There's also some references on his social media postings about the January 6th committee. He calls it the Democrat Farce Commission, or the committee. Again, this is part of the reason why the FBI is assisting in this investigation, and it really gives you a sense that, in addition to some of the stuff we've heard from Jamie Gangel's sources, that he was looking for the Speaker of the House. It gives you a sense that this was at least partially a politically motivated attack.
I honestly, when I heard that this guy broke in at 2:30 in the morning, I really didn't think he was looking for her pins or her pearls, do you know? But everybody reserved judgment until we actually had a name. And as soon as we had a name, we started Googling the crap out of this guy. And he's an anti-Semitic guy who has fallen for every single solitary conspiracy theory that has ever been propounded and put forward and tweeted and Facebooked and lied about on Gab and Bannon's show, and all of these criminals who still have huge microphones that tell people a load of garbage, disinformation, misinformation on purpose in order to agitate, in order to aggravate, in order to make them want to hurt somebody, because they think that they are defending this country from Nancy Pelosi. They think that they're defending this country from from Jews. Let's just say what they think. They think that this country it needs protection from parades. They think that this country needs protection from, you name it, China, COVID. Are we just going to sit here and not acknowledge that something is so wrong with the way that the media is running? Something is so wrong with the way that social media is. Something is so wrong with people in this country. Something is so wrong with, people's ability to grasp logic and reason. Something is so wrong when people want to believe every horrific, horrible thing about this country, about America. They just want to believe the absolute worst simply because they lost an election. It blows my mind because, in 2000, I was in West Palm Beach. That's where I voted. I voted in Palm Beach County. It was, a horrific looking ballot. I'll never forget it. They called it the butterfly ballot. It was confusing and bizarre. And if you had to, stab with a stylus a hole in the ballot that went down the spine of the ballot. And on either side of the spine were names of candidates. And it looked like if you wanted to vote for Al Gore, you poked the third hole. But truly, if you wanted Al Gore, you had to poke the second hole. But the second hole did not align with Al Gore's name. The second hole aligned the third hole aligned with Pat Buchanan's. The whole thing, and I remember getting back, I was just local then. This is 20 years ago. And I remember sitting in my chair at 3 o'clock saying, you know what? I think I just voted for Pat Buchanan. And the phone lit up like a Christmas tree, and everybody said, I do too. I think I did too. I was so confused. What was with that ballot? I couldn't figure out which hole I was supposed to poke if I wanted Al Gore. And I think instead I poked the hole that said I voted for Pat Buchanan. Even Pat Buchanan said there is no way I got that many votes in any county, let alone Palm Beach County, which is completely divided. Okay, it's equally Republican and Democrat. And everybody's voting for this, rogue candidate, this Pat Buchanan thing. So it was obvious that something had gone horribly wrong in the design of the ballot. At the end of 36 contested days, 36 damn days, everybody waited for the results of that election. We were told by the United States Supreme Court, please stop counting. There is no more time left for you to continue to sort through whatever the hell went on there, okay? And so we're going to stop the counting today. And at this point in time, George W. Bush is ahead by 535 votes. And we're calling it right there. That's it. And the reason they did that is because we have a protest period and a contest period, believe it or not. And we were running out of time to meet the deadline for the certification of the Electoral College, December. Okay? And so they said, you can't continue anymore. And so we had a president who was appointed literally by the United States Supreme Court. And there was no violence. There was a lot of heartbreak. There was a lot of disappointment. There was a lot of stunned people in the county that I live in, that I voted in. But nobody got violent, except for the Republicans. I swear to God. They came down here and they started banging on the glass windows at the supervisor of elections office. Her name was Teresa Lepore. That's the one who designed the ballot. And that's the one that caused, all of this. But the Republicans were so scared that they would lose that they literally sent congressional staffers dressed up in khakis and, button downs. They called them the Brooks Brothers revolt. Okay. And they came down here and they were pretending to be ordinary citizens from the area, but they weren't. And they started banging on the windows. Let us in. Let us in. And that was the first clue. The first clue that anybody who wanted to know could know that if Republicans ever lost a close election, ever, they would turn violent. They would, turn to banging and screaming and yelling. If not now, of course, going to the polls armed and sitting in lawn chairs, trying to intimidate you from even casting your vote. And then if they lose on the other side, coups, bloodless ones, going to court, filing, fake and fraudulent documents with the court saying, we have evidence when you don't. We have affidavits when you don't. And then literally breaking windows on the United States Capitol, smearing feces on the floor and on the walls, beating police officers, spraying them with pepper spray, screaming, I got one, when you're able to separate Michael Fanone from the other Capitol police officers. And now, by the way, we know what the ratio of protesters to police was that day. There were 58 protesters for every Capitol police officer that day. We needed the National Guard, and the National Guard was not allowed to go. We know that governors from neighboring states were trying to get their National Guard permission to go and protect the Capitol, and the White House wasn't giving it.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody, it is a Freaky Friday. There's no question about it. And, it's also the Friday before Halloween. And if you're not scared, you will be. I don't know what else could happen that would scare me more than what I woke up to this morning. But, hey, listen. The idea that we need more media like this, independent media that doesn't take political money, that doesn't take, corporate money, that just does this because it's important that you get oriented, that you get the right information, that you understand what's afoot, what's a foul, that you understand that there's news stations out there that aren't news at all. They're propaganda. They're lying to you. They're manipulating you. They're trying to get you to vote yet again against your own best interests, instead of giving you the space to figure out what your own best interest might look like and who is best to, execute your vision. Who is best to protect whatever it is you want to protect, your children at school or your privacy rights or, each other at the polling place, right? Whoever wants to live free of intimidation. That's kind of why we do what we do. We certainly aren't doing it for glamour, and we're certainly not doing it for fame and fortune. We're doing it because it's important that it gets done. And if you support that idea, if you think that that's a good idea, if you think that's a necessary idea, a needed idea, then please do support this. Today is just it was a 2-day deal. Yesterday and today. Yesterday's done. Today is today, and then we're done. Okay, so this is your last day to donate to Free Speech TV. And whatever you donate will be matched up to $10,000 by our frontline funders. We have Murray in New York. We have a Virginia viewer. We have, just a wonderful set of people that put their money where our mouths are. It's insane that they do it, but they believe in what we're doing. They think and they know that it's important. So give us a call at 877-378-8669. There it is. Or you can go to freespeech.org and donate online, or text 44321 and put the letters FSTV in there, and we'll send you a secure link and you can make your donation. You could say if you want it to recur monthly or a one-time deal, up to you. You can cancel anytime at all. You just say, I'm done. Please stop. And it'll stop. It's just that simple. So thank you very much. I hope you'll do it. I really do, because we're about to experience some contretemps. You know how they like to say you're about to go through some things? You know how Trump always threatens like that? You're about to go through some things. She's about to go through some things. Yeah, we're about to go through some things. And let me tell you what those things are. The reason why Donald Trump is telling maggots to vote on Election Day and not before, even though we know today that almost 18 million Americans decided, I'm doing it early, I'm banking my vote, I'm getting it done. And a lot of us are doing it because we don't want to deal with them at the polling places on Election Day. I know I don't. And I always vote on Election Day. I always do. But I'm going to vote early this year. I'm going to vote early because I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to be challenged by them for their lunatic, fringy ideas. I don't want them to be able to say, she's not speaking clearly when she says her name. I mean, it's a bizarre thing that's going on at polling places on Election Day. Now, why is he telling his, sycophants to vote on Election Day? Simple, because what will get reported out first are Election Day machine counted results. And if Trump has all of his people voting on Election Day, and he's not even on the ballot, okay? But if he can get his puppets into Congress, okay, he'll be happy. He'll be happy. He needs to get the Herschel Walkers into the Congress. He needs to get the Gosars back to Congress. He needs to get the lunatic, fringy Ron Johnson back to Congress. He needs to have Large Marge be in charge of the House Oversight Committee. I swear to God. So he's telling them all to vote on Election Day because those will be the first totals that we see, the Election Day totals. And if the masses of maggots vote on Election Day, it's going to look kind of Republican election night. But remember, there's already 18 million banked votes that won't be counted until after the election night. And he's going to tell all of these freaks, he's going to tell all these people that are agitating, all these people that are looking for an excuse, all these, armed people, that they did it again. They stole it again. And everything flipped in the middle of the night. They did it again. And he's going to release the hounds, basically, and tell them to do it again. The insurrection isn't over. It's not over. These Proud Boy freaks, they're out there, okay? We just saw, I guess they invited, one of the ex-Proud Boys, what's his name, McKinnon, or, they invited him to Penn State. And the Proud Boy lunatics showed up and started pepper spraying people there. Same thing happened at UC Davis the other night. The Proud Boys were, out there pepper spraying people that were protesting.
Violence at the hands of a group wearing the Proud Boys logo on UC Davis's campus, targeting protesters of a conservative speaking event hosted by a student organization.
The metal barricades that sometimes people use for crowd control at events like this, and hurl them full force at the crowd with no care or consideration for the injuries that might have been caused.
Videos shared with CBS 13 show the back and forth. In one, a UC Davis student says she's been sprayed with mace and that her eyes burn and she can't see.
They broke her property just simply for being a conservative.
This is not the first time that the Proud Boys have harassed our community, and unfortunately, we believe it won't be the last.
A community activist who came to peacefully protest the speaking event said nothing was violent. And then, all at once, when this extremist group arrived, so did violence.
We have seen the same faces again and again who come to our community from outside in order to create mayhem.
Therein lies one of the answers. These instigators don't live in this community. The director of the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism told me he studies events just like this and groups like the Proud Boys.
They particularly enjoy showing up in places where they can own the libs. So blue places like college campuses or even in cities.
While the group has grown recently due to publicity, they work in chapters and come together across regions. Violence, UC Davis said, quote, calls for harms to others or acts of violence are not protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
But the bottom line is, wherever there's an opportunity for them to violently promote their fascistic message, they will show up.
Yes, these people want to see fascism. I have no idea why they want to see fascism. I don't think, they might have it in their demented little brains that they'll benefit somehow, but it never works out that way. It never does. Anybody that's out there thinking fascism, yes, I'm for it, I want it, I'm a nationalist, I'm a white nationalist, I'm a white Christian, it never works out, okay? There is no system better than we the people. There just isn't. And it will not work out for you. It never does, it never has, it never will. This violence, this political violence in this country is such a dead end. For everyone. It has to stop.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Billionaire Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, has taken control of Twitter, according to CNBC, which is citing unnamed sources. The deal puts him at the helm of one of the leading global social media platforms. The Tesla CEO and founder of SpaceX completing the reported $44 billion deal on the eve of a court-appointed deadline to finish his on-again, off-again bid to purchase the company. One of his first moves, CNBC reports, ousting top executives, including CEO Parag Agrawal, then tweeting late Thursday, "The bird is freed," with apparent reference to the Twitter logo and to the completion of the deal, changing his own Twitter handle to Chief Twit. In a hint that a deal was imminent, Musk posting this video of himself Wednesday walking into Twitter's San Francisco office carrying a porcelain sink as he entered the glass doors. Tweeting, "Entering Twitter headquarters. Let that sink in." The Silicon Valley titan trying to placate Twitter advertisers, saying he's buying the platform to help humanity and doesn't want it to become a free-for-all hellscape where anything can be said with no consequences. This comes after a long back-and-forth battle. Back in April, Musk agreed to buy Twitter for that whopping $44 billion.
Well, I think it's very important for there to be an inclusive arena for free speech.
Then began backpedaling out of the deal, alleging that the company failed to adequately disclose the number of spam and fake accounts on the service. Now final, this Twitter takeover, leaving many to speculate whether Musk could remove lifetime bans, including bringing back former President Trump, who was permanently banned from the site after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Though Trump has said in the past that he would probably not return if his account was reinstated.
Who knows what that man will do? I mean, this is unbelievable. So Twitter is now owned by Elon Musk. All right. So Twitter is owned by Elon Musk, who tweeted the day after January 6th that you should use Signal, right? That you should use an encrypted app so you could talk to each other, Proud Boys, right? Gab is run by Andrew Torba, who I've played clips of, who is one of the biggest anti-Semites that has ever come down the pike, and he owns a social media network. Truth Social, a social media network, is owned by Donald Trump. Getter, which is used by right-wing lunatic fringe, is owned by Jason Miller, who's also a self-hating anti-Semite because he's Jewish. He is the most self-loathing Jew I have ever seen come down the pike. Parler, Kanye, who says he's fascinated with Hitler, wanted to call one of his albums Hitler and had to be talked out of it, according to people close to Kanye. He now wants to buy Parler, and Mark Zuckerberg owns Facebook, which is now Meta, and, is bleeding, hemorrhaging money. So basically every single social media organization is owned by some right-wing person. That's really stunning to me. Fox News is run by Rupert Murdoch, OAN, Newsmax. They're all right-wing outlets. They're all outlets that will spread conspiracy theories, agitate people to violence, tell them, any false thing that they think will sell with that crowd. I mean, it is really unbelievable. But the key that unlocks all of the miscreants is that the party known as the GOP, the Republican Party, the grand old party, stays completely silent as all of this goes on. They've never once said there is no truth to the election denial. They've never once said Mike Lindell is full of crap. They never once said COVID is real, it's killing people, and Florida, you've lost 82,000, smarten up. They have never said that anti-Semitism needs to stop. They've never denounced, except on January 6th, the day that they felt threatened, they said, Donald Trump is responsible. Donald Trump bears some responsibility. And then all of a sudden, Mitch McConnell went completely silent, and, Kevin McCarthy changed his tune, changed his entire tune. And now he's all about Trump. So this is not a democracy at this moment. That's the bad news. It's not. The good news is we have an election that is going on right now. Right now. Most of you can vote early. Almost everyone that is listening can vote early. Everybody knows that they can vote. And if not, they can vote on a week from Tuesday. Okay? And that's the good news. The bad news is we are not on a trajectory to remain or be a democracy today. Today, we're not. Today, we have too much media being controlled by too much lying, too much disinformation, too much propaganda. And people are disoriented in this country. And they take the path of least resistance, which is anger, aggression, resentment, hatred. It's much easier to hate than it is to love, and everybody knows that because, if you really truly love your country, you might be asked to serve it. if you hate your country, no one's going to ask you to do jack crap. Brother David.
Sister, from what you just said to the nth power, it is frazzled, feces-throwing, falsifying Fascist Friday. And here we are.
Well, I need to yell at you now.
Okay.
You scared us.
I had to go in and cover. I got a last-minute call to cover in a colleague's shift because she has COVID-related pneumonia.
All well and good. Very good Samaritan of you. Laudable. All of it. Send me a little email. Send me, just something. Because let me tell you something. People called all week. Had I heard from you? Are you okay? Where was he? I don't see him in the chat room. What's going on? You surely must know where he is and what's going on. You guys have been talking to each other for 20 years. And it dawns on me that you don't communicate with me except on Fridays in this manner. And
because
when you
it's what keeps it pure.
I know, but if you're going to...
I will.
Yes.
I will.
David, you're a celebrity officially. And as far as excuses go, that's a good one, Randy.
Wasn't that the best? Yeah, because of course it would be a high-minded,
Well... Here's the thing, and duly noted. Hi, chat room. Sorry about that, but I've been covering for sick people all week. And please go to freespeech.org. It's matching freaky pre-Halloween Friday.
It is.
This has been a fraught week for me, starting with the fact that Leslie Jordan was a dear friend of mine.
Oh,
he was my
sorry.
first ever professional interview.
Oh.
Remember during your Scare America days when I called you one day and said that Reverend Fred Phelps and the Westboro Baptist people were protesting in the height of West LA's Jewish community with God Hates Jews?
Yes, God hates the F word, yes.
Well, it was Leslie that called me. David, are you calling Randy today? You alerted me. That one walked the walk. This has reached, I voted on Monday. My ballot went out because I'm going to be, as of now, a poll worker.
Howard, too. He says he's going to do it.
I'm going to do it. I will have gotten through Halloween. I'm going as Mallory tomorrow. I got the Lady Chang done yesterday.
Get out of here, Mallory.
Yes, I am. Oh, absolutely.
So
I'm trying I'm trying to memorize her speech. The speech that went viral.
God. So Brett, Brett brought all his gear in today to show me his costume, and I'm like, no. He, I don't know if you know this. Brett's black, and so he decided that he was going to be a maggot, okay?
No, a real American worried about the crisis in this country. That's what I went as.
American, God,
American. Yeah, he went as American, and I made him take it off. I couldn't. It was scary. It was horrifying. I just no.
And it is scary. But I keep going back to FDR.
Yeah.
The only thing we have to fear, and that's what feeds the maggots. Well, it's what can galvanize us. There are still more of capital U, capital S, period, us.
I know.
I know you know.
I know he uses these people as foils. He uses them as, the lead to the bullcrap. That's why he's telling them to vote on Election Day, right? Because he wants the election night numbers to look like, the puppets that he has endorsed.
Like they did on Election Night 2020. Yeah.
And that we flipped it in the middle of the night, or we did something untoward, or like we counted ballots that were sent in early, like 18 million of them.
Well, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Vote now if you can, but vote. Get 10 people who aren't registered, register them while you still can. The people are coming.
I hope so, man. I'm counting on it.
It's what we got. There's still more of us than them, my dear.
I know. I woke up last night, though, at 5 o'clock in the morning. I could not go back to sleep. Just full of anxiety about next Tuesday. Seriously. It's starting to scare me. It's starting to cause anxiety. Because the people that he's promoting, they're puppets. They're mental defectives. They're diagnosed people with disorders, okay? This is not good.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created
equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Hey, y'all, let's talk about inflation. I feel like most of us Americans look at inflation the way a dog looks at fireworks, like no idea how or why that's happening, but it sure is scary and confusing, and we wish it would stop. So much so that apparently a bunch of us are going to vote Republican over it, something I don't understand. It's hard for me to imagine somebody in Georgia saying with a straight face, you know, I just feel like I ain't got no choice but to vote for the brain-damaged, abusive, Christo-fascist running back. I mean, have you seen the price of eggs? It's wild to me, but people blame the Democrats for it because they're in power. But my question is, what are the Republicans going to do to fix inflation? Like, what is their plan? I feel like if they were being honest, they would say, yeah, we don't really do the whole plan thing. We're more into like rage-fueled obfuscation, you know, stuff like that. Like they don't plan much. They mostly just froth and agitate. But if you look very hard, you can find their proposed approach to inflation. It's three-pronged. They would repeal Biden's minimum tax on corporations, extend the Trump tax cuts for the wealthy, and curb federal spending, particularly on safety net programs. All right. One by one, all right, repeal the minimum tax on corporations. Did y'all know that while inflation is rising, corporate profits are soaring to record heights? So you might think, okay, well, maybe those corporations can use some of those record profits to offset the rising cost to consumers, to which the corporations would surely respond with a chorus of cartoonishly evil laughter and puff of cigar smoke, right? Like they could be helping right now and they're not. What is giving them a break gonna do? All right, related, tax cuts for the wealthy, they're the people least impacted by this problem. Is the GOP really looking at the fact that the cost of everyday goods is out of control and their solution is to give more money to the people who couldn't tell you the price of a gallon of milk if their life depended on it? Really? They want to help the people least impacted and hurt the people most impacted. They want to curb spending on safety net programs. I picture them in some GOP think tank somewhere like, you guys know how the poor and seniors are complaining they can only afford one meal a day because of inflation? Well, I was thinking, what if we just let them all die, right? Like, who's complaining then? Problem solved. Right? It's simple stuff, guys. Like, how's this any of this going to help? It makes me wonder what their proposed solutions would be to other problems if they took power. Like, based on this, I feel like if you asked them, what are y'all going to do about the opioid epidemic? They'd go, oh, glad you asked. Yeah, first we're going to deregulate Big Pharma. We're going to send a load of cocaine to the cartels, and we're going to close all the rehab clinics in this country, huh? How about that? That's too stupid not to work. Am I right? Oh, also, I almost forgot. It's illegal to be gay again. Happy holidays. Hope you don't get shot. Right? You know what I mean? Like, I know we're all tired of dealing with inflation, but if the Republicans win, we're just going to be dealing with inflation and an authoritarian hellscape. So I'm begging you, don't fall for it. Love y'all.
Trey Crowder, everybody. Trey Crowder.
I love his surgical application of froth. The Republicans are always frothing angry or frothing over this and that. He's amazing.
I love that word too. That was one of the frothing and agitating. I actually wrote that down to describe that clip for myself, right? Like when I make my little list of what's in the clip, I wrote frothing and agitating. That's what it is. But yeah, he's so right. That's why it's funny. That's why it's hysterical. That's why it's a laugh. That's why it's a laugh fest, because they won't tell you what they're for, because if they did, then they would tell you they are for all of us dying or killing each other. That is what they're for. Thinning out the herd, everybody. You know, eugenics and all that. They are for corporate tax cuts. Corporate tax cuts in a time when corporate profits are humongous. In fact, Exxon's profits just came out, $19.7 billion. You might think that's for the whole year. Oh, no. Oh, hell no. That's for the quarter. That's for the quarter, which is 3 times the amount of profit they made at this time last year. That's called a windfall. See, that's how you chart and graph whether or not it's legitimate profit or it's a windfall that was made through gouging. You look at same time last year, you look at the profits, and if it's double, if it's triple, it's called a windfall, and you tax that so that there's no incentive to do that to us. This is one of the most, this commodity, this oil and gas thing, as you can see now, as the world unravels, is a national security commodity. It is something of the greatest importance, especially in winter. And they're gouging you. So Exxon's profit was $19.7 billion, which is 3 times what the quarter was last year at this time. The previous quarter, meaning the quarter before this one, was $17.9 billion. So if you were saying, well, maybe last year they were still suffering from some COVID-related lack of travel thing. No. Last quarter, $17 billion. This quarter, almost $20 billion. They're gouging. They're gouging. They're making more and more and more and more every single quarter. Every single quarter. The supply is way up. Permian Basin, which is where I used to live in Odessa, all right? That's Odessa Midland. Permian Basin pumping, going great. Highest ever. Highest ever in the history of the Permian Basin. New Mexico, highest ever. North American refining back online. The refineries have made amazing profits. Also, just amazing profits. So we looked at Shell yesterday. Shell had a double of what they had last year at this time for profits. Shell, and Total Fina, they doubled their profits from the same time last year. 500% increase, right? Chevron, they reported a profit of $11.2 billion in the third quarter. Down slightly from the previous quarter, but double what they were doing last year at the same time. And they're gouging. They're gouging. So, hey, let's give them a tax break on top of it. And that is the Republican plan. That is exactly what they envisioned. It's exactly what they see it as the way forward. And they can't tell you that. That's why they don't have a platform. They can't tell you what they're for, because what they're for is not you. What they're for is not your parents. What they're for is not you if you're trying to go to school. What they're for has nothing to do with humans. It has everything to do with corporations. It has everything to do with stealing. It has everything to do with chaos. Okay? That is their plan. That is what they're for. That's what they're about. You send these mental defectives back to Congress. You send the Gosars. You send the Ron Johnsons. You send, add to it the Herschel Walkers. Send back Large Marge over there. Go ahead. Send her back. And you know what you're going to have? You're going to have inflation out of control. And on top of it, you're going to have an increase in violence. And you're going to have fentanyl. By the way, Large March, she was on the TV telling everybody, you need to check your children's candy for fentanyl. You need to check your children's candy. They're going to give fentanyl to the children. And it's all about immigrant. They're peddling this lie, this myth, this crazy thing that says that illegals are smuggling fentanyl in. Well, I got news for you. 80% of people who try to make it across the border get caught, apprehended, and sent back. 80%. And you know how many drugs we find on those 80% that we apprehend and send back? 0.02% of drugs are found on those people. So where are the other 99% of the drugs coming from? It's called legal travelers. Legal travelers. That's where the drugs are being smuggled. So if you ended illegal immigration in this country completely and we stopped apprehending people, I don't know. It would have no effect on the fentanyl, like zero, zip, goose egg, zilch, squat, donut, nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Fentanyl is being smuggled in because it takes so little, such tiny little amounts, okay, that legal travelers are being contracted by the cartels. Now, how are the cartels the cartels? See, that's a better question. That's a bigger question. That's a question that has a really, really freaky answer. And you know what the answer is? The cartels are the cartels because of American guns. Yeah, American guns. It's the stuff that's going the other way that you have to worry about, like the guns. The guns that are coming from Texas, the guns that are coming from Arizona, the guns that are coming from New Mexico, the guns that are coming over the southern border into Mexico. That's what's arming the cartels. We are. And they always want you to focus on something that has absolutely nothing to do with the problem. Nothing. Just to gin up hatred, resentment, aggression, to make you froth.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
If I had asked you, and we were just walking down the street, so can you tell me what the Republican platform is? What they're for? I'm not joking. I'm being deadly earnest. Like I said, I've been around a long time in public life. Republicans usually always have platforms. Say, this is what we're for. Well, they can't tell you what they're for, but they'll make sure they'll tell you what they're against. They're going to give the power we just gave to Medicare to lower drug prices back to Big Pharma to raise prices instead. The cap on the $2,000 cap on prescription drugs for seniors, gone, if Kevin has his way, McCarthy. $35 a month cap on insulin for diabetes for seniors, gone. Savings on health care premiums of $800 a year for literally millions of Americans under the Affordable Care Act, gone.
Why? Because they serve Big Pharma. They serve oil and gas. They want to steal the Medicare trust fund and privatize it, give it to, themselves. Just like Rick Scott ripped off Medicare, now he's got the entire trust fund in his little, sights there. He's got the entire trust fund in his grip. And this is why they want not just malcontents, but mental defectives, people who are diagnosed with mental illness. This is why Donald Trump went around the country and found some of the most ill-equipped, ill-tempered, violent, illogical, unable to process, business facts and figures, people, and endorse them. Either they were election deniers who believed in conspiracy theories, like the guy that broke into Nancy Pelosi's house this morning, okay, like that, or people that were willing to encourage and do violence and tell their followers this is your 1776 moment, like Lauren Boebert, like Marge, okay, like Gosar, like Biggs, those people, the people that are willing to overthrow the United States government, the people that are willing to undo the will of the people. Those are the people he went out to find. Why? Because they're puppets. They're his puppets. He's the marionette. He's the puppet master, and they're the little marionettes. That's it. That's all he wants. They want to steal. And they can only do it if it's chaotic out here. They can only do it when people can't figure out what's really going on. And that's why all this purchasing of media, that's why all this purchasing of new media, that's why all this purchasing of AM radio stations back in the day, then TV, then newspapers. I mean, think about all the stuff Rupert Murdoch owns, okay? He owns the Wall Street Journal, for God's sake. He owns the Fox News Network, for the love of Pete. He owns the Daily Mail. That's why when people, the New York Post, when people send me articles from any of those, I tell them, you do realize that one person is controlling all this misinformation. You do understand that this is going through one little filter known as the Murdoch family. You understand that, right? And that they are literally siphoning off the truth and feeding you like grounds. It's like a coffee filter. And all you're getting is the bottom, the sludge, the silt. I mean, this is entirely too much media controlled by an entirely conservative cabal of fringy people. Like I said, that all of this social media is owned by, Jason Miller, and now, you got Elon in there. They're turning our lives into a hellscape on purpose. They want one set upon the other. Because when that happens, then they can steal. I've been telling you this for 20 years. In chaos, they can steal. And I don't know that you understood what I meant by it back in the subtle days of stealing elections through, the Supreme Court. Now they're doing it through violence. Now they're doing it through disinformation. Now they're doing it through, confusing people, bamboozling people, conspiracy theories, the Alex Jones of the world, the Bannons of the world, on the Getter and the Gab and the this and the that. I mean, it's just such pure, unadulterated hatred for one another. That's it. That's all they have to peddle. It's what they sell. And why? So they can steal. There's still a lot of money that goes to people that they would like to see go to them. Honestly. So they tell you, hey, if the border were secure, we wouldn't have fentanyl deaths. That's a lie, okay? That is an act. First of all, when people who were non-medical users were relying on prescription painkillers, okay, and they were relying on stolen or diverted or pill mill doctors, and they couldn't get that anymore, okay? They couldn't. They just switched because they were addicted, and they switched to something more dangerous known as heroin. Meanwhile, genuine pain patients suffered immensely. And so did the heroin users, because making cheaper, badass heroin required something known as fentanyl. Almost everyone who dies of a fentanyl overdose in this country is a United States citizen. And yet people are telling you that it's a border thing. It's not a border thing. It's an addiction thing. It's a prohibition thing. And the more you prohibit, the more you get a black market. The more you prohibit, the cure for fentanyl overdoses is very simple. Can you figure it out? You want me to tell it to you? Test strips. That's how simple it is. You give everybody test strips that needs to use illicit drugs. And you tell them, before you do this, before you snort it, before you shoot it, before whatever you're going to do with it, before you crush it and smoke it, test it. And if there's fentanyl in it, go get some more. Get something else. Don't use it. Don't take it. Or at least know that it's in there and do less so you don't OD. That makes too much sense. And what are politicians going to do with that message? What are they going to do with that? They can't, make you froth at the mouth over, an illegal fentanyl market that we're arming with our guns and is literally being brought here by legal travelers. People who are legal. Fentanyl would disappear if illegal immigration disappeared is a lie. It is an absolute, abject lie. It's wrong. Border crackdowns have exacerbated the crisis, not alleviated the crisis, because it is so potent. A large supply is easily concealed, and it makes it easy to enter the country through legal borders, and that's what happens. Legal travelers smuggle nearly all the fentanyl into this country. That's a fact. Go check me out. So why are they telling you something else? Why are they telling you something, that won't help you solve our problems? Because they're not interested in it. They're interested in one thing: making you agitated, making you violent, making you hate, making you froth. That's it. They're selling pure hatred. They're selling pure misery. Barely 2% of all the hard drugs that enter this country are smuggled in through, illegals. And 80% of the people who are crossing illegally are apprehended. So it doesn't make sense, if I'm a drug smuggler, to use illegals for my drug smuggling if I know that 80% of my illegal drug smugglers are going to be apprehended with my goods.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Happy Halloween, everybody. Happy Halloween. We are doing a very quick in and out fundraiser for Free Speech TV for the benefit of this not-for-profit corporation known as Free Speech TV. If you are so inclined to support independent media, which gives you all the information that makes the world knowable, that takes the crap that is conspiracy theories and games them out so that you can understand they're not happening, then please do support free speech by going to freespeech.org right now, and know that you will be matched dollar for dollar today up to $10,000. So if you gave $500, it would be $1,000. It's just that easy. Or dial 877-378-8669, and a happy person will pick up your phone call over there in beautiful Denver, Colorado. Or text 44321, 44321. And when you do that, put in the letters FSTV, Free Speech TV, and we will send you a secure link, and you can make your donation that way. This will conclude at midnight tonight, so we thank you very much for supporting independent, free media. Okay, thanks. Jay in Washington.
Oh, how you doing, Randi? First time caller.
Oh, really?
Wow. Air America Days, 92.1 in Madison.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Yeah. I was calling because, well, first of all, what you were just saying about agitation and I feel you 100%. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I came out of the Midwest to the West Coast, and out here where I stay in Washington, people have access to healthcare. People have, access to a lot of stuff. So the quality of life is different than a state where they've been divesting for the last 20 years versus investing
Mm-hmm.
for the last 20 years. But what I really want to ask about was, like, oftentimes you say this is not who we are. And I think we need to be like, get to the place where we're just like more transparent. Like, this is who we are. And if we want to move forward, we got to accept, like, this is who we've always been. And a lot of our progress has been incidental or accidental because of political expediency,
Well, I'll say it's not accidental. It's incremental. It is slow progress. There's no doubt about it. And
But
yes,
it's not
we were
normal.
founded on violence. There's no question about it. The people that conquered this nation literally conquered the first nation that was here, and in order to create something more, to their liking. I mean, this was a genocidal a bunch of people that first settled this land. But
and we're the only country built on chattel slavery on the earth. Period.
So
it's like,
this is 100% proof positive that those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. And this is exactly why. This is exactly why the Republican Party is trying to shield a whole new generation from learning, from being able to understand that if you know your history, you can actually not repeat it. You can make progress.
But I also think, I think we also have to not say this is not who we are, because I think it just lends to this myth of us meeting some expectation that we've never met. And it's like, it's never been that way. Like, we exist in a situation where, for some people, they've always and continue to be in a fascist state. And you can be friends with them and not even have that reality. Like, we have to get to a place to be like, yo, we have never been the thing we said, let America be America again, Langston Hughes, right? Like, we've never been that. And
well,
so
the whole idea is that we, become more perfect. That is the idea of America. That is what, we hope we can achieve someday in this here country by practicing democracy and making it more accessible rather than less, right? So that's
I agree,
right?
But I'm saying,
so when you say
that wasn't the intent for you and I.
No, I understand.
It's not moral progress.
No, what you're saying is, when you hear that's not who we are, you want to say yes, it's exactly who we are, but it's who we were. We don't have to be that.
Today. Randi, listen, I left Milwaukee, right? Milwaukee's the worst city for black people. Racism has been declared a public health crisis by the county.
Yeah, I know. I live there.
For black people, right? Right, you were in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, and now I live somewhere where it's still racist, but I don't live with the same indignities. Just like my grandparents migrated out the South because it was so racist and violent and went to Wisconsin, which is the worst state up north to be if you're black. Right, but it was still better than the level of violence they were dealing right there. So what I'm saying is, like, that's America. You get what I'm saying? So it's like,
because today. America is unequal. Because America literally
today, though.
I mean, when you look at where highways were built and how they divided, very successful and rich black cities, then you understand that it's repeating history. It's literally repeating history.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, we're on the same page. I'm just saying, like, it can be misleading for some, and I think that's easy to exploit, because then we get caught up in that in a moment where they know how fragile America is. White folks here are around race, and that's why it was easy to exploit and have all this uproar, because our emotional intelligence, particularly white folks, emotional intelligence around racism, right, is low, because that's a part of how they keep the control and steal.
And also, there are people that feel horribly guilty about being part of that, and so you have that to overcome too. So, listen, there's no question that white fragility around race is a real thing for various reasons. But most of it is because
Putin knew that.
Well, everybody knows that. Everybody that wants to know that can know that. The problem is that the Republican Party doesn't want people to talk about it. That's why whenever we talk about,
but the Democrats don't either.
No, that's not true. Whenever you hear Democrats, try to talk about race, the first thing they'll say is, first thing we have to do is have the conversation. That's the hardest part, is to even start the conversation, because the other side is telling you there's nothing to converse about. There's nothing to discuss.
But when we look at the politics, we look at Wisconsin and some of these states, right? Nobody wants to say, I support black people. Nobody wants to say, I support poor people. Like, that's a real thing. You know what I'm saying? And
but
so
I disagree with that.
Side, and they don't even listen to the folks. They should listen more to the folks who are saying, this is how you can have a better ground game, instead of listening. You know what I'm saying? They're not listening to the black people they even have working for them.
Well, so now you're talking about the party and all their foibles and flaws.
That's what I meant.
Well, the party is definitely flawed in its messaging.
Yeah,
there's no question the party has never been good salesmen. Never. They've never been able to. Right, and that the Republicans are much better snake oil salesmen. They can peddle just anything. They can peddle any conspiracy theory that you want peddled. You go find a Republican and he'll sell it.
Yeah, but the party needs some more Jane Elliott trainings too, so we can get, because the shit is on the line. You know what I mean? Like, we got to get it together. You know, everybody gets out and vote. You know?
I hear you. I mean, I feel you. I do. You're not wrong, except to say that we don't have to be that. Like when you say, this is who we are. No, we don't have to be that. We can say that's who we were. We don't have to keep repeating history. We just don't. But you're right. We need better salesmen. We need better conversations in this country. And there's fewer and fewer places to have them, let alone people to lead them in those conversations. No question.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
One of the things we always remind everybody is that by January, I would be much, much better, but Oz will still be a fraud. And, and I rely on the judgment on real doctors, not a fake doctor like Dr. Oz that has spent his entire campaign ridiculing it and counting how many words that I might miss. And again, I acknowledge that, of course, any debate is going to be easy for somebody in recovery. And we wanted to be and thought it was important to be there, and we showed up. And getting knocked down, I always got back up. And to me, that's really at the essence of our campaign.
That's the essence of being a human being, a successful one, a decent one, a good one, somebody that's worthwhile, is to get knocked down, sure, but get back up. Get back up. And I want you to know that the Republican Party only cares about knocking you down. That's the only interest they have, is knocking you down. And when you get back up after they knock you down, they ridicule you. They ridicule you. They judge you. They diminish you. They sideline you. That's who they are. It's what they do. Robert in Naples.
Hey, Randi. I love you.
Thank you.
Anyway, yeah, and Howard, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And I owe him $20 still. One day I'll get it to him.
Oh, you do? What do you owe him money for?
I bet him that Mueller would be fired, and he said no, he's not going to fire him.
Oh, right.
Anyways, if you guys ever come over here, I'll buy you guys dinner. How's that?
Done.
Anyways, all right, good. We'll figure out a time and date, and we'll do it. The call about this Emmett Oz guy. He's got dual citizenship, I believe.
Yeah.
With Turkey.
He does.
Okay. I don't want somebody in Congress. I don't care if they're Italian or Israeli or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. You're an American. That's it. That basta. Nothing else. You can't be half Canadian and American, because where's your loyalty? I'm serious. I'm going to prove it. Here. He has no problems crapping all over Joe Biden and inflation, right? Erdogan's inflation is 83% in Turkey. Do you think he said word one about Erdogan and inflation?
You're right.
No, he won't. You know why? Because he won't exist if he did. No, it's true. And whatever happened to that, there was some Turkish guy that lived in Pennsylvania. Remember that Michael Flynn wanted to grab him and send him back to Turkey? Whatever happened with that guy? Anybody know?
I don't know.
Homework for everybody.
Yeah, it's a blast from the past.
Hey, Randi, one last thing.
Yeah.
When you came back from Costa Rica about 6-7 years ago, and the show started kicking up again, and I think I was the first caller after Hillary conceded to Donald, and everyone was just shocked, right?
Yeah.
And I said it to you, and I said it tongue in cheek, but now I was more poetic, and you agreed. You said, I said, we're at war and we don't even know it yet. We don't know we didn't, but now we know who the bad characters are.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
They have shown you who they are, and I ask everybody to believe them. Believe them, because they are showing you exactly who they are, and they are bad. They're bad for democracy. They're bad for this country. They're bad for ordinary Americans. They're bad for real Americans. They're bad for, hangers-on. They're bad. And anybody that follows them and thinks something good is going to happen for them, to them, with them, because, the fascists in government, the corporate, autocrats in government are someday going to pay their respects to you for making it all. Give me a break. I mean, you got these guys like Stuart Rhodes, who is going to put, he's literally facing 20 years in a federal prison, and he'll probably go there for a good long ass time. Donald Trump's not going to lift a finger for him. He's not going to do a jack thing for that man. That man is going to rot in a federal pen, period, end of story. And the guy that just got 7 years for attacking Michael Fanone, that horrible person that literally said, I got one. Hey, Clem, I got me one, right? That guy just got 7 years, okay? And then another guy, an ex-New York police officer, he got 10 years. And another one last week or the week before that, he got 7.5 years. I mean, these people are getting real time, real serious time, and you don't hear a peep, not a word, right? Just Donald Trump saying, oh, they're treating them like, political prisoners. Yeah, that's talk. That's what that is. That's talk. He could have pardoned every single person. He could have pardoned anybody before he left. Who did he pardon? Roger Stone and Steve Bannon. That's who he pardoned. You know why? Because they're connected. You're not. Bob in Nevada.
Yes, Randy.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe that the Democrats realize that this is a war. The election we're having right now is so suppressed and attacked right here in Nevada and California. But I think if they do win the election, I think the Republicans are going to just suppress everything and create process. And with the judge system, I don't think this will ever end. And I think
so there's no question. They've already filed, just so you know, so everybody can get their brains wrapped around what's about to happen to us. They already filed 100 lawsuits, okay? 100 lawsuits. In Nevada, is it Nevada or is it Arizona? I think it's
Nevada.
I'm not sure.
Nevada.
The hand count, is that your state?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's chaos. But
total
the
freaking chaos.
I am 90 years old.
Oh, my God. You sound great.
My wife lived in German-occupied France. This is serious. People should be so scared, frightened, because what happened I've seen already. So I would make a comment is that people should be able to fight back right now. They should not be timid. They should not rely upon the courts. They should be fighting back. The war has already started, whether they realize it or not, and they will not like it if the other side wins.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Comment.
No,
that's my comment, and anybody who wants to respond, fine.
Yeah, no,
anyway,
I think that it's a good one. It's taken to heart. I'm telling you, I woke up at 5 a.m, just like one of those, because it's making me crazy knowing what's coming. And I know what's coming. I'm trying to tell you what's coming, but Bob over there, he understands what's coming. They're going to challenge every single solitary person that they can. And then after the fact, if the Democrats prevail and they hold the House and the Senate, they're going to take this to court. And they're going to agitate and make people think that elections were stolen again in the middle of the night, because that's why he's telling his people to vote on election day, so that there's a big dump of, election day counting that's going to favor Republican, crazy people. And then they'll start to count the mail-ins, and then they'll start to count the earlies, and then they'll start to count, the rest. And it will flip. And they are going to latch on to the flip, and they're going to do exactly what they did in 2020. And we've got some crap coming our way. Not just the court stuff, not just the legal stuff, not just the the contesting. But I'm talking about coup stuff. There's going to be violence. There's no question. The only thing I would tell you is don't be part of it. Don't be part of it, because if you're part of it, no one's going to come and save you on the other side of it. You're going to go to jail. That's what happens in this country even now. So be warned. Carrie in Utah.
Yes, I was calling about, you mentioned the oil company is $15 billion profit for the quarter. I went on Google and did some research how much it costs to build a refinery. It costs $15 billion to build a refinery.
But we have refineries. We have refineries all over this country.
But we don't use them. And
yes, we do. Yes, we do. And refineries had profit taking. But
why are we? If we are using them? Why are we exporting oil?
No.
Why are we exporting? Why don't we take care of ourselves like Venezuela did a while back?
It's a global commodity. I mean, if you could tell me where your gallon of gas came from, I'll give you $1 million.
I have no idea.
Right, nobody does.
The point is I have to pay it.
Don't feel bad. Nobody knows where their gallon of gas came from because it's a mix of everything, okay? But, oil production in this country, it's record. It's at record, highs. We're drilling our brains out. We're refining our brains out. We're doing fine on production. Absolutely fine. They're still gouging you. That's what's going on. But we have refineries all over this country. We have refineries in Arizona. We have refineries in Alabama, refineries in Texas, obviously, refineries in Delaware. We have refineries in Kentucky. We have refineries in California. There's refineries all over this country. Anything that, you hear on right-wing media with regard to the price being something other than gouging is not true. That's what it is. It's pure, unadulterated profit taken. And then what do they do with the profits? Buy back their own stock. Yeah, it's quite a racket they got going on there. But oil and gas is set, the price is set on a global marketplace, okay? And it's like 5 people deciding, everything. Yeah. Happy Halloween!